Jai Hind, Jai Bharat, and welcome to Dev Talks. This is Adi Achint. The Ukraine war, as usual, is getting day by day like a soap opera, if I may. Prigozhin seems to have bid his adieu to the world. Ukraine is on its last brigade. The 82nd Brigade is supposed to be its last big, I'm sorry about that, last big reserve left. He's got some minor this stuff left around the place, but it's not as significant as anything else. Russia seems to be playing the diplomacy game at BRICS. And of course, most importantly, it's the counteroffensive to the counteroffensive that the Russians have actually started in the north, which is making a bit of a news. So let's get General Prabdeep Singh in and try and understand what in the world is happening in this Ukraine war. Because day by day, the situation becomes either there's nothing that'll happen for 2 3 days and something will explode, or it is just like any other week where it's a war of words, if I may say so. Sir, good evening. Welcome to the show and lovely to
Good,
have you
e-
back.
good evening, Adi. Good to be back. Talking about Ukraine, as you rightly mentioned, the world's becoming more interesting. Uh, New issues coming up day by day, getting more and more interesting. And as you said, uh, the Russian Wagner boss is no more. We've heard about the crash having taken place exactly 2 months after, the mutiny, which was 24th of June. And here we are on the 24th of August. It's just about 2 months. And we've had this news of Surovikin also being relieved of as the boss of the Russian Air Force, Air Force, Aerospace, whatever forces.
Aerospace
So,
forces.
yeah, aerospace forces. And there's a whole lot of talk about the F-16s. Uh, President Zelensky is mighty, he's euphoric as far as the F-16s are concerned, and he feels that that's going to be a game changer. Uh, we have the news which is being blown out of proportion, saying that the counteroffensive is progressing uh, well, slowly but well. Well, uh, yes, definitely they're progressing, but to the extent that they should and with the weight that they should, that's not happening. We should discuss that. Then, of course, all this is happening at the background of the BRICS, which has taken place, and that being a very important event also actually matters because South Africa, we've got new members who are likely to join in, and that's going to make a lot of difference into the geopolitical, you know, environment of the world. Then, of course, the Poland Belarus kind of tension continues. The Wagner forces, even without their boss, are still continuing to be in Belarus. There are about 10 to 12,000 of them. And as we understand, there are a total of about 25,000 of these Wagner troops, and about 50% are there in Belarus. Then we have this, very important news which talked about one of the bombers, the Russian bombers, being attacked by a drone and being destroyed, a Tu-22 M3. Now that this kind of destruction deep inside, about 650 kilometers inside the border, and that was apparently done by a kind of a quadcopter, drone. So that also has made news. And then on in the battlefield, we had this news of a bridge being blown in the direction of where the in the general area of Kupiansk on the river Oskol. That is also hindering the operations with a it's been destroyed uh, with a view to not allow the Ukrainian forces to move into this into the eastern side and vice versa. I mean, because if you destroy a bridge, it affects your operations as well. So all this is happening. And then what is quite important and relevant is that there is a very concerted drive to shape the narrative. Now, somebody has written about it and calls it deprogramming. Now, when it says deprogramming, is that a lot of media, whether it is the Washington Post, whether it's New York Times, they all started reporting that this war is going nowhere, that the counteroffensive is going nowhere. Now,
Hmm.
when all such news starts coming out in the media, it is basically with a view to shape the, affect the minds, shape the battlefield, so to say, or the environment, and get people to think that this war is actually not progressing as they would like it to be. So slowly and slowly, they're trying to convince the common public, because after all, it's the taxpayers' money which is being used, that we've done enough. Enough is enough for Ukraine, and the war is actually not going the way it should. So this kind of mind games are being played. Now, of course, we had the Ukrainian Independence Day, and that itself was being kind of celebrated in neighboring countries as well, with the flags flying upside down. So that is also a very kind of interesting. Another
Moldova.
Yeah, another interesting thing that I picked out of Moldova was that there is this region of Gagauza. Yes, that's towards the south, and adjoining the sea. They are likely to also declare independence, because from 1991 to about 1995 or 1994, these guys had been independent, and uh, kind of they wanted to be, and later on they have been subsumed into Moldova. So the declaration by Gagauzia was is also very interesting, because keeping with this, uh, already there are talks that in the breakaway republics of Georgia, that is Ossetia and Abkhazia, they are
Brazil.
also likely to they are also likely to be absorbed into the Russian kind of fold. So you have Transnistria, you have Gagauza, you have uh, Abkhazia and Ossetia also coming in. So the Russia definitely is expanding, and it is getting under its fold most of the Russian speaking territories, and Crimea, of course, is already a part of that. Now, when you look at all this, you had a very interesting statement by President Erdogan of Turkey, saying that, he also said that Turkey was with Ukraine. And now this is also, whether it was a diplomatic speech or whether it was meant to be uh, I mean, show of solidarity, or with a meaning or without a meaning. I mean, one doesn't say. So the relationship between Turkey and Russia are also going to get strained because of this. After all, Turkey controls the passage to the Black Sea. So all this is happening. Interesting phase, and I think every day we wake up to a new news. Yeah.
That's interesting. So let's talk about Prigozhin first. I mean, we'll talk about the ground situation after that. What do you think happened, sir? It's 2 months. The dates are too precise. I'd like to connect it to an interview that Putin gave some time ago, and he said that the only thing I don't tolerate is betrayal. A lot of people are hinting at something that has happened. What is your gut feeling, sir?
Well, look, everybody wanted him gone.
Yeah.
Now, when I say everybody, I'm talking about President Putin. If I go by the premise that is actually a mutiny,
Hmm.
that's one. You know, I kind of still hold this thing that it was never a mutiny. It was a staged. kind of whatever feint or whatever ruse to move troops to Belarus, or to move Wagner forces to Belarus. Now, so if we assume that it was a mutiny, obviously he was meant to go. To uh, he has been making statements about Africa, freeing of Africa. Just 2 days back, he has made this that he want statement that he is showing his solidarity and his presence in Africa, and says that he's got control and he'll do everything for a freer Africa. So he's supporting all the dissension over there. So the European leaders, the French wanted him out.
Yep.
Let's take it that way.
Yep.
So obviously, and Americans in any case wanted him out. So did MI6. So everybody wanted him out. Now, who's got him out? Who's paid adequate money to have whatever done to him? Have the aircraft blown up?
Hmm.
We'll have to really, wait and watch to find out as to what exactly happened. But if you all see the videos that are emanating on the various channels, whether it is YouTube, whether it is Telegram, or wherever, there was apparently no missile fired, because today, within Russia and Ukraine, courtesy the war, every aircraft is being kind of, videographed. Everybody takes out his mobile and starts recording, making
Yeah.
recordings of the aircrafts.
Hmm.
Every missile which is being fired, people are monitoring that and reporting it over Telegram and various. But however, no such missile was seen anywhere near the aircraft, because had that taken place, there would have been some video which would have kind of emerged from somewhere showing a missile being fired. The only video that we got was an aircraft with a lesser wing
Yeah.
coming down. So, in my opinion, basically what would have happened is that there was some explosive which would have been planted within the aircraft and detonated at a particular time, which let the wind off and caused the sudden, spiraling down of this aircraft and crashing it. In any case, they won't have survived. Without a wing, no aircraft is going to survive. So this is precisely, in my opinion, what would have happened, and somebody would have been paid really big. When you're spending billions and billions of dollars in this war, what are a few $1 million?
Another more. Hmm.
Yeah. So whether you call it the CIA or whether it's the Russian intelligence or whether it's anybody, uh, one cannot say whether it was the Ukrainians or whether it was the Poles. I mean, it could be anybody.
Correct.
So, and of course, if you try and link it with the disappearance, I wouldn't say disappearance, I would say the removal of Survokin as the head of the armed force, as the aerospace forces. So, if you coincide that, then maybe the two of them have been taken on together. Uh, what will, where is Survokin? Where will he emerge finally is what we will see in the coming days as to where he goes.
I had a wild theory about it, sir, but
I know your wild theory, and if I may just bring it to the public, uh, is with the number one and number two of Wagner Group gone. Obviously, you need a very senior general to head a force. So, who best is placed other than Survokin, who's just been removed and who could be just told, carry on. You also kindly get lost out of Russia and go to Belarus and take over this. So, if this kind of a move takes place, I don't know. There's a wild theory, but then it's wild theories is sometimes it is good to talk about them because sometimes they do come true.
yeah,
So I've really liked your theory on this part, but it's quite possible. It's quite feasible. You
it is.
remove him, you take away Prigozhin because he wasn't delivering. He is becoming too big for his boots. You take on the number two. After all, he was the number two,
Utkin.
that is Dmitry Utkin.
Utkin. Hmm.
Utkin was the guy who's actually created Wagner, and his nickname was Wagner. So if you've taken out uh, the spokesperson or the CEO and the COO of the Wagner company, so you got to put somebody in place, and let's see who comes in the top. They're talking about some mechanism existing as to who will lead the Wagner Group. Now, the Wagner Group has got, what are the options for Wagner Group? A is dissolution. Simply say no more Wagner Group. Thank you very much. You go to your respective whatever lands, hand over your weapons, and thank you. That's it. Two is that you absorb them in the Russian military. Quite possible. I mean, nobody says no to something like this. And the other is that they remain as a force with a new commander.
Hmm.
So which is most likely. So the dissolution part of it not happening, in my opinion. Two, uh, ab- you know, absorbing them within the Russian military possibility, but again not so high. But definitely put a new commander in place, and who best other than Surovikin at the moment?
He's fought with them, sir. I mean,
Yeah,
in
he's
the
fought with
Battle of
them. He's
Bakhmut, he
employed
was
them.
in charge of that area.
Yeah, he's employed them.
Yeah, yeah.
And so Prigozhin, going away of Prigozhin from, after all, he was a chef. Uh, he was in jail. He came out. He started selling hot dogs. Then he became he opened a restaurant. Was a chef. Then became the personal chef. Then became a contractor,
Hmm.
supply contractor, or I mean, catering contractor for the Russian armed forces. And then because he was a good spokesman, I think he rose high and became a personal friend of Putin. And here you are. When you get too big for your boots, it's time to go. And that's what has happened.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the F-16s. That's a very interesting notion to me, and I'm calling it a notion for a particular reason, because what I see of it is that, I mean, you're sending 8 people for training. It doesn't even seem like a peacetime activity. In peacetime, you'll send about 15, 20 pilots there, learn a little bit and come and this and that. You'll send technicians. You send the whole 8 chaps are going there.
Yeah. This F-16 thing, a big who has been made about F-16s, and a big this thing about, Zelensky's been crying hoarse that I want F-16s, and F-16s are going to change the destiny of Ukraine, so to say. But are they really going to change the destiny of Ukraine? Hell no, that's not happening. And this has been discussed in various forums all over the world, saying that look, fine, F-16 is fine. You're not going to get the best version of F-16s,
Hmm.
right? B, okay, you want F-16s, we'll give you F-16s, but where are your airfields? Apparently, F-6 there is no airfield within Ukraine which has the requisite length. You know, so the airfields need to get upgraded. Uh, Thirdly, you need those technicians. You may have the fighter pilots been trained, but what about the technicians? Yes, as you said, there are 8 pilots going to go to Denmark for training, along with 65 technicians. So there are 65 guys. They're also going along with them for technical training. But this training, uh, it's not only just training. It's just not only the airfield. It's whole lot of paraphernalia which exists on the ground to get these aircraft uh, rolling and being operational and being employed operationally. You
True.
see,
Hmm.
it's there is so much of support staff that is required. Administrative support, the logistics are required, the technical support is required, the infrastructure is required, the hangars are required, all that. And how long can they keeping, I'm told now that every 24 hours or every 8 hours, I don't know which, these guys are flying out from one place to the other place, landing on roads just to dodge the missiles of Russia as of now.
Wow.
So these aircraft are not being made stationary, and that normally is a tech. Incidentally, that's the way it is during war. Aircrafts are not going to be stationary at one place. They'll move from one to the other, to the other, to the other, and especially when there are no, these hangars, the blast pens as we call them. So
Bomb
if the
shelters.
blast pens do not exist, so these aircraft have to be moved because they cannot be kept in the open, that they'll be taken on. And in any case, they're lacking a lot of air defense, and their airfields are getting blasted and battered quite badly. So F-16s, and how many F-16s are we talking about? There are, Denmark and Netherlands, both, they've been authorized by Pentagon uh, that okay, fine, you may give your F-16s to Ukraine. Now, there are a total of 61 between the two countries. There are a total of 61 F-16s, right? Now, with 61 F-16s, are they going to give all of them? Well, no country is going to give all their aircraft to another country just because he's wanting it for his defense. They would like to keep some for their own defense. Now, as far as Denmark is concerned, while Denmark has been the most, forthcoming, because after all, it's training the pilots. It's given already given a schedule. The schedule is we're going to give six by the beginning of the year, coming year, eight by within 2024 we'll give you eight more. Then 6 plus 8 is 14, and then it talks of we'll give you five in 2025. Now, is the war going to get prolonged so long? And even if you look at, how many, 14 F-16s coming in by 2024, say by summer of 2024, you have 14 of these a squadron worth of F-16s. Well, how much of a material difference are they going to make? So let's see as to what's happening. I think too much has been, I think Ukraine has got too much of money lying, lying around, and then a big hurry because first we had this story coming out of Sweden saying that Zelensky has asked for the Gripen
Mhm.
aircraft from Sweden, and the Swedes turned around and said, "Thank you very much. We are not yet a part of NATO, and we'd like to keep them for our own defense." And if we see we have produced and we have some spare, they haven't even said that we will give it to you. They said, "Thank you very much. It's not happening." So Zelensky, who made a request and an announcement that we would like to, it's like a toy. I would like to have this.
Hmm.
The Swedes have told him politely to, do what? And then he's talked about F-18 Hornets from Finland. Now, just because Finland said that we are going to be upgrading from F-18s to F-35s, so okay, I'll take your F-18s. No, it's also very I mean, I would say immature, as if these are toys that he's just picking up and they're going to make material difference in the battlefield. So this F-16s, of course, UK is also part of it, wanting to train the pilots and stuff. It's going to take about 2 years.
Whoa.
In my opinion, it's going to take about 2 years for the infrastructure to come about, the war to end, peace to return. Yes, they could be used subsequently for the defense of Ukraine after whatever is the result of this war. It's for the future. If you think they're going to make difference today, I'm so sorry, it's not happening. Yes, for the future, they got their F-16s. Yeah, another year and a half. As I just told you, 2025 is what Denmark is talking about, giving them five. So
Hmm.
when you're looking at such time frames, it's for the future. Nothing, no material difference is going to be made in this particular phase of the war. So that's the way I look at it.
I so let's go on to this now. Let's talk about the ground situations. It's very interesting. They've been fighting for this one, village, and it's a Robotina or something like that. It's just
Rabatino,
uh,
Rabatino.
it's supposed to be a very pivotal village and this and that. They've been fighting for it for the past 2.5 months. Point one. And reports are very clear that this is Ukraine's last offensive brigade. After this, they don't have anything. They don't have anything in terms of a formation set, sort of a unit to go inside. They're still, I believe, those Azov chaps are back, so they're kind of putting them in again and everything like that. What do you think is going to happen to the war, sir? Because are these guys just going to realize we can't do this anymore and run behind the Dnieper and sit down, or what do you think is the next phase of the war?
You see, as of now, I would just put it this way that the Russians are very comfortable taking on these attacks, counteroffensives, because they have realized that these guys are going nowhere. That's
Hmm.
one. Now, if I may just put it, they're getting a little too relaxed on this score. The Russians, I'm saying,
Yeah, yeah.
which is not a good sign. Let's face facts, it's not a good sign. I agree that you don't want to bang your head and you don't want to get your people killed, and you launch a few counterattacks here and there, and where you can push, you push, and you basically relying on your you know lancets, the drones, etc. for the destruction of, which is in a way a very good tactic. Okay, he wants to advance. How much will he advance? 1 kilometer, 2 kilometers, fine. He's not yet reached any major defense line. So even if he comes now, interestingly, the United States has made a statement, and there is this U.S. military advisor who's there to Ukraine. He's turned around and made a statement, and rightly so. And I've also said the same thing. Uh, these guys have frittered away all the resources all across the front, right? They have not been able to employ their armed forces in the manner they actually should have for an offensive.
Hmm.
If you recollect, I've been talking about this all along. Now, uh, I yesterday's statements by the United States advisor to Ukraine, military advisor to Ukraine, also states that they've been wrongly using the forces.
Yeah,
Now,
Washington Post. Yes, sir.
for them to say so at this particular stage, I'm so sorry. I mean, what were they doing all this time? After all, if he was the military advisor, he should have been advising them what to do correctly. So this is a realization which is set in now, and which is whatever said and done. It's a little too late for such an advice. But nonetheless, there is a movement of a lot of armor and troops from the eastern side to the southern side, where this Rabotino or whatever that village is, where the progress is being made in the Zaporozhye region. Now, because after all, their aim, as we always said, was they should have been very decisive. They should have been striking deep and
Hmm.
wanting to go in straight for the land bridge, right? Or for Melitopol. Now, that was the overall aim in the first place itself, and that is what they have been threatening, that we want to get into Crimea, and that is what it is.
Yeah.
But what did they do in turn? They frittered away all the resources. They wanted to make progress. They wanted to push the Russians back from all fronts, not realizing as to how much of preparations the Russians had made. I think it's a poor, lack of understanding as to how to conduct a war. While when you conduct a war, we agree that you have to carry out reconnaissance all along the front, and you have these probing attacks. But probing attacks does not mean you go and you go and bang your head against these walls. Unfortunately, that's what they did. They should have just probed, okay, I can't go here because this guy is here. Fine. I just hold him there. Now let me probe elsewhere. So you keep moving and probing. So where you
Hmm.
find a weak spot, you go in and drive a wedge. But whereas these guys went bang on and they kept on banging their head against those places. That's not the way you do whatever uh, Rekian force or probing attacks. That's not the way you go about doing it. You look for weak spots. Now they kind of have found this weak spot, if I may just put it. And on the advice of the Americans, these guys are moving their troops apparently from the east to the south towards this direction. Because if they can make some headway, maybe they will reach somewhere another 3 4 kilometers, and that's about it. Because the moment they reach a little deeper, they will hit this Tokmak. The if you remember the map, and I showed you, there was this roundabout ring
Yeah, yeah.
kind of defenses around a particular place. That's Tokmak. So if they will ultimately, by banging their head against Tokmak, and they are going to meet heavily defended, defenses, the Russian defenses, and Russia is sitting tight because the moment that these guys are going to concentrate their forces in this particular area, they're going to let loose with a whole lot of RT air and artillery air and their drones, etc., missiles and drones. So there will be a total destruction which will be caused because as of today, the air defense, while they're trying to build it up, it's lacking on the battlefield. It's lacking. All these drones are having a field day. So these Lancets are doing a great job, and the helicopters, the Ka-52s, they are also playing very well with the Ukrainians. So the moment the forces get concentrated, the Russians are going to let them have it. So the 82nd Airborne Brigade, when you talk of strategic reserves, usually it is the airborne and the air mobile brigades which constitute strategic reserves. Because when you talk of strategic reserves, airborne forces are meant for insertion deep inside enemy territory by air. They're to be paradropped. Air mobile forces are supposed to be inserted deep inside enemy territories after a landing ground has been secured. So the airborne forces will go and secure a airhead, and then the air mobile forces will land, and that is how the battle is taken deep inside. So that is the notion of strategic forces. But if you deploy strategic forces as normal infantry, uh, well, you've just wasted assets, well-trained assets. I guess they have no option because they couldn't have gone in deep and secured a air raid and all that. That was not possible for them. So they have used them as normal infantry. They would be good at. They are obviously the best that they have, and they have been provided with the Challenger tools, and they've been given those Marder,
Hmm. Hmm.
AFVs, and the best of equipment has been provided to them. But remember, as I said, as and when more and more forces get concentrated on this, the Russians are going to have it. Now, the other advantage is when all this is going to move into a particular direction, Russia is going to go all its way towards Kupiansk and beyond that into towards Kiev. And after all, that's
Opposite
the aim
direction. Hmm.
in the
Hmm.
opposite direction. Now these are called, you know, this is how offensives are carried out. They've been able to lure them all here with the hope that they will get success. They will bang them here while they will themselves go up north and deep inside the Ukrainian territory.
Wow.
And that is what should be worrying Ukraine as of now, and they don't have that kind of force. Yeah, so that's the scene as far as the battlefield is concerned.
So let's talk about the factor that the Western media. One thing is there. The kind of narratives which are coming out of the Western media, except the British media, if I may. British media, for some reason, has not been able to catch up to the reality. And they are still,
Yeah.
if you read the Telegraph and you read the Guardian and this and that, oh my God, I mean, you really wonder, these guys are writing with blindfolds or what? I really don't know. But having said that, the Washington Post, the New York Times journalist sneaked into one of the battlefields and he took some photographs, and now Ukrainians are saying no journalists allowed in that area.
Yeah, there's no journalists allowed.
Yeah. So, but the reality is kind of seeping out into America, which is of course, the main backer. How do you see that political situation, sir? Because to me, that's pretty explosive with Biden's whole, corruption thing coming out quite a bit, with the election coming in. Uh, I'm sure the Democrats are looking at figuring out what is the fail-safe. How do you see that situation opening out in terms of the politic of the war, sir?
Yeah, no, we talked about deprogramming, right? This is kind of a deprogramming operation which is being carried out. So I'm going to read out. I'm going to read out. Okay, uh, few statements or headlines of few newspapers supporting, uh, this narrative. Washington Post: slow counteroffensive darkens, clouds over Ukraine. Economist: Ukraine's sluggish counteroffensive is serving the public most, right? Is saving the public most. The Washington Post: Ukraine will fail to meet its offensive key goals. Now, these are statements being made. Washington Post: Ukraine running out of options to retake significant territory. Financial Times: US grows doubtful about Ukrainian counteroffensive. CNN: uh, Ukraine focus on Crimea draws skepticism from the Biden government. So these are kind of statements which have come. I've just read a few which are hastily noted down. Now, what are they looking at? As I said, they're trying to build the narrative, and because the American public actually, if you really know, I've lived in the United States, and I know every media house speaks the same language what the president speaks.
Hmm.
There's something you ought to be proud of, fact that from top to bottom it is all in sync. There is no dissent. Dissent is only off late because of YouTube that you find a lot of dissent, coming about McGregor and uh, Carl Tuckerson and all these guys coming out with new things. Otherwise, had it been on main media, they're not there on the main media, nowhere near. So what I'm trying to say is, and the public is so naive that they kind of absolutely have full belief in what is being telecast or what is put in the media. They're totally blind because they do not use their mind as to what they have no clue about politics, of geopolitics. Very few guys who are into this game, they understand. The rest of the people just don't understand at all. Now, they're actually quite clueless. The fact remains, so much of money has gone in. I mean, endless amount of money. About, as we said, 113 billion had already been given. Now, 113 billion is not a small amount, and 24 billion has been sought from the Congress.
Yeah.
So, with all this happening, after all, the public mood today is uh, changing in the United States. So, if President Biden has to get re-elected, then he has to kind of change the thinking of the people. And it is all, everything has got to do with the politics. It's got to do with the fact that you the reality that Ukraine is not going to be able to win at all, and it is Russia which is going to win. And so that's where it lies. I mean, everybody is, uh, whether it is Germany, whether it is France, whether it is United States, everybody is looking at elections and getting re-elected. And today, unfortunately, because of this counteroffensive, the public opinion today is now not in favorable, not favorable to all these guys. So that's the politic part of it.
I
Yeah.
mean, there's one thing I'd like to, if I may, so humbly add, is that what's happening is that all the candidates that are running for the president, except for the the regular names like DeSantis and Mike Pence and this and that, all the outsiders today are talking about the reality of the situation. They're saying this war is stupid. Let's get out of it. So that's something that we are seeing, which is happening in these presidential debates and stuff like that. I was watching this thing on the Fox with all these guys, and I saw the discussion is pretty realistic when it comes to these outside guys. So
You
somewhere down
see,
the line, I think the American public will start pushing back a little bit. I don't know. I mean, that's just an opinion.
no, no, true, true. Because if a these guys are smart enough to sense the mood of the public. The public opinion polls obviously today is not in favor of this war. It is 52 against 48, and so people do not really want to have anything to do with Ukraine.
Yeah.
There's about 52%, and the others is saying still okay. Yes, Ukraine must win, and we must support Ukraine. So if you sense the mood, uh, the newer players are going by the very essence of this war, and they're taking a very realistic stand, and they do not want to kind of give false hopes. Whereas President Biden and all, they are the ones who led to this war, who let this happen. So they have to support. They have to kind of uh, show that whatever judgment call that they took was the correct call. And today, unfortunately, it is not. Ukraine has not deployed it. It's not applied its firepower. It's not. We thought they would do it,
We
and
gave
they
them
we,
everything.
we
Hmm.
gave them everything, yet they did not. So that's the sob story that is being put across. And I guess they have no option. Let's put it this way. Let's put it this way. They have no option. Their military advisors failed to advise, in my opinion, failed to advise Ukrainians as to how to go about dealing with the war, with the entire thing. They lack the experience of an all-out war. They have always, the United States Armed Forces, unfortunately, gone in wherever there was no opposition, little or no opposition, and no conventional, fully prepared armed forces that they had to deal with. So
Hmm.
they didn't have no idea. And it is only now that I would say the Ukrainians are better tactically trained than these guys. And maybe you'll have the Ukrainians advising the United States shortly after some time.
I'm
Yeah,
sure Zaluzny will get a job, sir, if he survives it.
yeah, he survived.
Yeah. My last question to you, sir, is about we always look at this war from a perspective that what's going to happen next and this and that. But somewhere down the line, I can see that there is a break in the entire game, which wasn't there. There's a softening of that overt aggression from the West. Little bit of a tone down you can see. Of course, the regular, neoliberals, neocons, Vicky Nuland and all these guys are at it. I've not seen her for a long time. I don't miss anything. But in any case, uh, what I'm seeing is a bit of a toning down of the rhetoric. Why? Because if you see the National Security Advisor, his press statement said that this war is very difficult to predict, and we would
Correct.
not like to put in a prediction to kind of see where it is going. This, along with that Moscow Time article that came out in Netherlands, hints at there's some discussion which is happening at the back end, and that's why there's these offers and counter offers flying around the place. Last week we discussed NATO says give up some of your territory and join NATO. Trifurcation of Ukraine, Poland going inside. These are I think negotiation tactics. I don't know, sir. This is something I really feel that this is back behind closed doors, but coming out and leaking a little bit information, which of course the Russians are also doing on the other side. How do you see this game being played out? The track 1.5 or 1 2.0 or whatever you'd like to call it,
Yeah.
sir.
these games have will always happen, are being played, will continue to be played. Now, primarily in the entire interest of the world, if I may just put it, the total interest is, let's put an end to this war. Let's put an end to all this killing which is taking place. Now that is the saner voices which are being heard. And unfortunately, Ukraine is not. The President Zelensky is kind of hell bent upon continuing the war. Earlier, at the behest of the West, but today he's kind of on an independent,
Looped in.
yeah, he's become independent and he's self-charged, right? Earlier, it was he had the entire backing of the West. That seems to have dwindled, as we discussed earlier, in the narrative being built up. Whereas he's not letting go. He's kind of demanding, give me your Griffins, and give me your F-18s, and give
Arrogance,
me
yeah.
this, and give me that. So he's kind of in a demand mode. He's as if he and his team are depicting as if they are the ones who are fighting to save Europe, right? Now, that's the Ukrainian part of it. The West wants him to cool down. NATO wants him to. There are no statements coming out of NATO because they know that they're not going anywhere. So that's the Ukrainian part of it. As far as the Russian part of it is concerned, Russia said, "Thank you very much." I mean, if he's wanting to fight, I will teach him a lesson, and that's precisely what is happening. Now, in between, you have people shuttling, whether it is the Indian, whether it's the Chinese, whether it is the Pope, whether it's the African Union, all that. Everybody wants to put an end to this war, and rightly so. So these kind of negotiations will continue. Uh, Trust you me, nothing's going to happen. Uh, at least till February 2024, till the elections of the United States. United States let it go at the same pace because if a ceasefire gets announced today and Ukraine kind of accepts it, we all know, whatever has been taken is the 20% of territory is already lost.
Yeah.
That is for sure. Now Russia is on a mode, okay, let me grab some more.
Hmm. Why
Ukraine
not?
is on a mode. Ukraine is on a mode. Let me recover what I can. You understand? So Ukraine is on a model, knowing very well that it's going to go nowhere. Let me at least recover whatever I can. Russia is let me go and gain whatever I can. Let me destroy these guys so badly that they can't show eyes again. He wants to. Russia wants to make sure that Crimea is not going to be touched ever again. He wants control over the Black Sea, and we haven't discussed what all is happening in the Black Sea. We were talking about the, near the gas.
Same. Yeah.
Yeah, so where this near the Snake Island, whatever has happened, and the attacks on the various ports which are happening. So Odessa, Reni, everything, all these ports are under attack, and the Ukrainians are making use of their boats and laden with explosives and stuff. So we have all that happening there. So he wants control over the Black Sea. Russia wants total control. So now you have bring in Moldova and that portion. You have Transnistria. You have Georgia coming in. The Georgian portion. So all that when you look at all this, you know where it is headed. Russia is not going to let go of all this, and Russia is not going to stop till its aims are met. And
Correct.
Ukraine is not relenting because he's kind of. So I guess, and we've been discussing this, sooner or later he'll also be made to go. So till such time he's around, Zelensky is around, I don't think we are arriving at any peace. Because today he's out of control of the West.
That's
He's
yeah.
not. He is out of control. So when he's out
Yeah.
of control of the West, it's time for him to go.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
maybe sooner or later, as we've always been contemplating and talking about, he's going to be taken out. And I guess so. That's where it lies.
Fantastic, sir. Just a short comment. Let me drag it a little further. What if India is able to get Putin and Biden into the same room and lock them up and say, "You buggers, please talk"? And I'm saying this pretty lightheartedly, but what was
Yeah.
how are the chances of that? Because I don't think anybody would want to get into the middle of a negotiation. But
You see, when you look at heads of states, when they meet diplomatically, well, they meet and they discuss issues at threadbare. So that's not an impossible task. You've
yeah,
got the G20 meet coming about. If President Putin is going to come in, and there is an informal kind of a meeting arranged, quite possible. I have no inputs to suggest that it's going to happen.
true.
I'm just guessing,
Speculating.
if
Yeah,
speculating. Now, if this were to happen, uh, well, if better sense prevails between the two, highly possible. After all, India is one country which is ideally suited to bring about a rapprochement between the United States and Russia.
hmm,
So it would be in the interest of the world. It would be in the interest of the war, and that such kind of deal is brokered. Will it happen? I really cannot say. I have no inputs to suggest. It's just a
absolutely.
speculation. Should it happen? Well, the world will love it. It would be a great step taken by India if such a thing is brokered, and if it does take place, that'll be nice.
Fantastic. So let's get into the questions, of course. And I recommend, sir, whenever you do feel like, just do put in the Black Sea part of it. That's one thing that I personally missed out. I think we should cover that before the end of the show.
Yeah, yeah.
There are there are
The whole thing now today, the focus is Black Sea.
there are
You see,
or let's do one thing. Why don't we just take a couple of minutes and actually discuss that? Because what we
oh,
see today,
yeah. Tell me.
if I may, the Turkish game, we stand in solidarity. That's very interesting because that would be raising alarm bells in Russia.
No, these are all diplomatic maneuvers. These are all diplomatic statements which have to be made. After all, it's an Independence Day of Ukraine, and Ukraine, whatever is said and done, has lost a lot of lives.
Yeah,
And the soldiers have fought very bravely. We got to bow our
give it to them.
heads to that bravery and their determination, whatever said and done, whether it is an ill-trained soldier or whether it is a trained soldier. The fact of the matter is they're fighting for their country, and they're dying for their country, and they're prepared to die for their country,
That's
whatever
the
be the
big thing.
motive,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
whatever be the motivation. So I would also bow my head to all these soldiers. After all, I'm also a soldier, and I understand. And a soldier's sacred duty is to fight and for his motherland, and if possible, die while protecting it. So I think they're playing the part very well. And as far as Turkey is concerned, the president is concerned, as I said, these are all diplomatic statements which are made at the highest level. Tomorrow he'll show solidarity with Russia if there is an occasion. So these are irrelevant, and what goes behind the scenes and what is the actual is not known.
Hmm.
He cannot antagonize the Russians, if I may just put it, and he cannot antagonize the West also. So this is
That's a,
more.
what about the Black Sea, sir? These ports are getting blown up. Today there was a news. I don't know how much is true. Some 13,000 tons of grain was blown up by the Russians.
Yeah, so that's going to happen. Grain, I mean, the grain silos which are existing in the ports, they are being targeted. They're being taken on. I mean, what the hell? I mean, it's war.
Why
Fact of the
not?
matter is that if you try and circumvent, the Ukrainians are wanting to give a safe passage and a safe corridor along with Romania and things like that. It's not happening. Nobody's going to allow it. The Russians want full control over the Black Sea, and that has been the main kind of, you know, area of concern as far as Russia is concerned. So
To me, the
any
whole
happening,
demand. Sorry, please, sir.
anything happening in the Black Sea affects Russia because, as we that is the way to the Mediterranean, and that's the so-called warm water ports that is available to Russia. And they're not going to let loose of that. After all,
I
they've
mean,
placed a complete fleet, the Black Sea fleet, over there for protection. Of course, part of it went to Ukraine. That's been destroyed now. Yeah.
for me, the main thing is that the Black Sea today seems to be a place where, if the Russians have dominated this kind of control, so that means Odessa is on the menu.
No, I said it from my first day when we started. I spoke of Odessa and I said, yes. I mean, it doesn't make sense, to me. If I were a Russian general planning and operation, and if I wanted my strategic interests to be kept in mind, uh, anything without Odessa, no, it doesn't make no sense.
Doesn't make sense.
Anything without control of the Black Sea doesn't make no sense. I mean,
So
I may lose a little bit of land territory, but I want the sea.
it's easier to control the land that you have if you have the sea,
Yeah.
especially if it's a peninsula sort of a situation. Great, sir. Let's get into the questions, guys. We've got around 500 people watching us. How many people have liked this video? Close to 200. My request is, please, can we push the like button? That's the most important thing. There are so many people who are watching from all around the world, and I can see the different names and stuff like that that keep coming across. So this particular show gets a lot of varied audiences. We've seen before. We're getting Western audience now because I guess people are, as you mentioned, that their media is so blindsided that some people in the West are looking for the realistic picture, and they're tuning into shows like ours to actually find out. So please like this video, guys. Subscribe if you've not subscribed for many other things. Primary focus: China, Ukraine, and the regional geopolitics. Of course, you can contribute to me with the QR code above me, which is direct contribution to me, or you can become a member or send us a super sticker or super chat. Let's see. We have JBJP. General sir, Prigozhin da patka kinne bajaya? Putin ne, basically, for the people who don't understand this, he's saying who did whatever he did to Prigozhin. What happened to him?
It's too early to comment as to who exactly is behind this. Uh, well, a lot of speculation that it's President Putin. That gets connected because of Surovikin and because of the statements that he's made. That's one. Two is, as I said, it could be anybody. It could be the CIA. It could be the Ukrainians. It could be the Poles. It could be some disgruntled element within. So as of now, it's too early to comment. We shall see as to how it pans out. Yeah.
Mindwaves, thank you so much for your super sticker. And let's go on top. We had somebody called Aaron Raze. I don't know, brother, if I'm pronouncing your name correct. He said hello from Iowa, USA. He said, my favorite podcast from India.
Thank you,
So
Aaron. It was good to know that.
kudos to you, sir. Uh, Technology question: some Western media has cited Russian specialized artillery for mine laying being effective and stalling Ukraine's counteroffensive. Please educate us on this special artillery.
Okay. These are, what happens is now mine laying. You do mine laying by hand, physically. That's one. Two, you have mechanical mine layers, mechanized mine layers.
Hmm.
Uh, it's done like that. And the third is it could be done like you heard of the cluster bombs, right? So when a bomb explodes, it gets bomblets. So similarly, when you use artillery, which is for mines, so you have a number of mines in the round, and these are scattered. These rounds are fired, and these are scattered. So they kind of get scattered all over. So this is how it happens. So it's just something like a cluster bomb, and it lets out number of minelets, and these get spread over a specific area. So when an artillery battery or a regiment fires, you know, depending on the area it has to cover, the number of rounds would be fired. They have the methodology as to how they want to do it, and say they would cover one battery, or would in one salvo would cover maybe 1 square kilometers or something like that. So these are minelets, part of the rockets, the shells. So these are let loose. Yeah.
Batraji is asked a twister again, sir. I must tell you. I'll warn you before you get inside this question. General Sir, Zelensky doing the dance after Bhangra after the assurance of getting F-16s. On the other hand, he is saying he's willing to give up Belgorod in exchange of NATO membership. What is the state of mind of Zelensky?
I guess there's something wrong with this man. This statement was made. This was a very, what do you call, what should I call it? A foolish statement, and he was being sarcastic. Actually, if you really look at it, so there's nothing serious about this. As far as the state of mind of Zelensky, he's on a high. When power gets into your head, you power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. So this is the kind of a situation that he is in, and he's in a kind of a euphoria that the world is listening to him, and he's the man around whom the entire of Europe is dependent on. So he's making such stupid statements like that. So I think he's gone a little
Wonky.
off. Yeah.
A little too much of the, you know. Kripanandi Saab says, Sir, France has anything to do with Prigozhin's death because of his involvement in Niger. You've kind
Yeah,
of
I
covered.
did this statement. I did make this statement. Uh, just a possibility. I mean, let's say, after all, 2 days earlier, I was making statements about freeing Africa,
Absolutely. Mm.
and as I said, the entire of Europe has been totally dependent on Africa, milking Africa, and that's how the riches came about. They became rich from where? From all the colonies, and in the modern times, where are the colonies? Uh, the colonies are in Africa. I mean, they not may not have colonized, but then the fact is, uh, they have been kind of milking these countries that they have colonized earlier.
Yeah.
So that's how it is. So quite possible. I mean, I won't rule out nothing.
Batraji says, but General Sir, what about Wagner role in Africa? I want to actually ask you a related question to this. That's why I took this up. It's furthering Russian interests of the group dissolved. Who's going to replace it? Now, this is what I want to ask, sir, because this guy Wagner was created to operate outside Russia. Uh,
Yeah. So nothing's gonna happen. I mean, one man gone, the next man will take over, man. A human life is very expendable. A country
sadly,
doesn't stop running just because the president died of a heart attack or got killed in a air crash. The country continues to run. Organizations don't collapse just because the head of the organization is just fallen sick. So these things really don't matter. We continue to Russia wants to monitor and have control over Africa. Will continue to have. Uh, if this person is not available, then the second person will be made available. He will be given responsibility, and this will continue.
so
It's not a it's not going to happen. Yeah.
interesting comment from Dipankar Pathak. He says Ukraine is the diluted version of Pakistan.
Pakistan is worse.
Okay.
Yeah, I know. I will tell you why. So, I normally don't comment, and India, Pakistan, or Pakistan per se, but yes, definitely, I have been very, very closely associated with our neighbors. Uh, Pakistan is in turmoil. It doesn't exist. Ukraine is fighting for itself. Ukraine is a cohesive force. Their armed forces are fighting for their, if I may say, for their survival. Pakistan is a mess. That's no country. I mean, it is. Baluchistan is pulling the other way. Pashtunistan, that side. You have, Sindhuistan coming about here in Karachi. You have just the Punjab left, and all that is happening. What is happening? You know what is happening there. I mean, if I get into the details, that'll be another 1 hour. But Pakistan is a total mess. Pakistan is a mess. There is no. Uh, the army which used to or could have controlled Pakistan is today not in control of Pakistan. Pakistan polity is in shambles. Pakistan economy is in shambles. Pakistan, uh, anything and everything is in shambles. Nuclear weapons are for sale. No, it's no country. I mean, it is just about surviving because it has a boundary, it has a border, and it has to stay within the borders. It's promoting terrorism all across. Neither do they have the money, neither do they have. I mean, what do they have other than those nuclear weapons that they keep boasting about and which they're now going to putting up for sale? Already, actually, I know what is happening. I don't want to talk about it. So, what do they have? They have sold their tanks back to Ukraine. They've, T80 UDs they got from Ukraine, 350 of them,
Yeah, yeah.
320 or 320 of them. They're ready to give them back.
We're already going, sir, through
Yeah.
UAE.
So if you're looking at their GDP and you look at their inflation rate, I mean that's no country. It is Ukraine is fighting for itself. It has support of 50 odd nations. Tell me how many nations are going to support Pakistan today if something happens? That's it.
Not even China.
It's not diluted version, my friend. It's you what you said is a diluted version, right? But I would say Ukraine is shaped much better.
Yeah. It's got some sort of nationalism, I guess,
Yeah,
Pakistan.
it's
They
got
were very
nationalism,
right.
but from nationalism.
Yes, sir. If this attack is not done by Russia, then Russians look very weak. If NATO can kill their high ranking officers inside Russia.
Nobody will know. He's gone. End of story. After today, nobody's going to talk about Prigozhin. He was. He isn't there. Nobody's going to talk about him.
Ashok and Manuel says so it's almost confirmed that Poland is going to move into Ukraine. Today, President Lula of Brazil also seemed to hint at a nuclear war. So it looks like the trifurcation of Ukraine is not agreeable by Russia.
Let's see how it pans out. Uh, I mean, Poland moves into Ukraine. You have, what are the ramifications? We've discussed this. And trifurcation of Ukraine is not agreeable by Russia. Maybe it is the other way around. Because if you have to, I agree with you when you say it's not agreeable to Russia because the borders will move closer to
For
Russia. Actually, it's not acceptable. But that could be perhaps the only solution that will happen. You know, because NATO would want Poland to come closer to Russia.
yeah,
Ukraine would want to remain as Ukraine. Russia would want its claimed territories, and perhaps that is where it would rest. I do agree with you; it's not agreeable to Russia, but maybe that is the situation it would perhaps stop at.
true. Aaron says people in America can't even figure out what their gender are. They're fat, lazy, and feel entitled for everything. Those who are aware were attacked by the media and the government and our government.
Aaron, no comments. I've lived there. I was there during difficult times, so I agree with you.
Yeah, I mean, something which is pretty self explanatory. Tejas says, sir, from your talk, it seems like Russia will eventually win. What are the chances that America will back out of sensing a defeat and will leave EU in the lurch and make it look like an idiot?
Not happening. No, Russia will win. America will never move out of Europe. It is already sensed to defeat, and it's holding America is holding the EU to ransom, man. They have shifted the dependency of entire of Europe on America. Whatever dependency the Europeans had over Russia and China today is blocked, has been taken over by America. America willy-nilly today rules the entire of Europe, the
Yeah,
EU.
yeah,
You can say what you want to say, that's a fact. Whatever influence the Chinese had over the Europeans,
finished.
that's also gone. All the trade routes, after all, they were to pass through Ukraine, not happening. They're passing through Russia and then Ukraine and getting into Europe, not happening now. Russia, which was supplying all the energy requirements, not happening. Who's benefited? America. The entire essence of this war is what based on this theory.
Absolutely. Mind waves. He says the total GDP of Ukraine in 2021 was less than $200 billion. The US has given too much. Actually, more than that, they've already received. What's going to happen to Biden when people realize the truth?
Nothing is going to happen to Biden. He doesn't know. He doesn't know whether he's coming or going in any case. So it's time for him to go. That's what people
Yeah.
say. I mean, because of his mental, condition. I think he's gone a little too old, and as is claimed, is unfit to be medically unfit to be where he is. So nothing going to happen. I mean,
So,
uh, people will realize. Yeah, sorry.
no, please go ahead, sir.
Yeah, people are already realizing that. And it's not that people are not realizing it. It's coming out in the open.
Last few
Yeah.
comments, sir. Adi Sura says one crack leads to the other. We heard last time that Poland wants to take historic lands. Uh, I imagine there are more issues like the similar one. Is this the unwinding of EU and NATO?
A good one. I mean, when you talk of unwinding of EU and NATO, these cracks that you mentioned, the historic linkages to Russia are showing up. And all those regions, when I talk of regions, I talk of Ossetia and I talk of Abkhazia and I talk of Gongaza and I talk of, the entire Donbas region. So the Russian speaking people or the Russian speaking areas or which were traditionally part of Russia or have linkages, they're all wanting to be back. Today, the realization has set in that Russia is not that weak and meek as they thought it was. Let's face facts. The whole world is realizing that. The West thought it would just be a pushover. Ukraine would, Russia, they would just throw them out, and Ukraine would eventually win. Not happening. So this
Yeah.
is in fact the unwinding of EU and NATO. This is in fact, uh, I said that NATO is losing its relevance. I mean, it is not all powerful as it claims itself to be.
Yeah.
They have not been able to, with all the support that they've given, they've not been able to stem the Russians and hold on to the Russians and
True.
let the Russians done what it wants to do and will continue to do. And saying that Russia is going to push beyond the Ukrainian borders, I have my doubts. Uh, it's not going to go into Poland. It's not going to start. It's not thinking in terms of going into Moldova. It's not thinking in terms of. It's not going to do that.
He'll probably back these little protests around the place, but I don't think he's want to take
No,
in.
no, it's not.
Rishikesh says, what is the possibility of Ukraine developing a low yield nuke? Whoa.
Why do we have to develop a much will be a widened one? But then the repercussion of that far too much
Yeah.
not happening. I think the world is quite wary of this fact that the threshold they have to keep it below the nuclear threshold,
Yeah.
and this realization is there among the Russians also, and this is there with the West also. And if Ukraine were to do it, well, I really cannot say because, and as far as knowledge and wherewithal is concerned, they have it. It's not that they don't have it. The after all, there were a whole lot of nuclear weapons which were deployed in Ukraine,
Ukraine
and it's
itself.
only subsequently to the after the I think it was 2002 or 2001 when it was decided to kind of get rid of them from Ukraine. So Ukraine has the wherewithal and has the resources. I would just
Sure.
put it that way.
Could you please discuss the authenticity of the news of a destruction of a S-400 SAM complex by Ukraine?
Good one. Have you missed that out? Apparently, yes, one S-400 SAM complex has been destroyed by Ukraine, and so it claims. And how authentic is the news? Well, they've not seen any videos as so far.
Yeah.
I mean, today we can only talk of authenticity when you see a video. In this case, no video has been seen. There's just been a claim by the Ukrainians.
So Prashant says, Putin has no intention of relenting. Biden will look weak if he relents, especially within the upcoming elections. The other BRICS members are gunning for Russia. Will India play a peacekeeper?
Yeah, we did talk about it. Uh, it would be ideal if India plays a peacekeeper and it gets. I'm sure we're not talking with the Ukrainians and the Russians coming together on a in the same room, but definitely the United States and Russia can come into the same.
I'm on the firm believer that something is about to happen because I think the Council of Foreign Relations people are going to just force this administration to get something done because it's still 1 year and 4 months to the election. They could recover out of the PR defeats pretty easily by doing something else. So one doesn't know. Last question here, sir. What about the biolabs in Ukraine?
Good one again. Well, these were also supposed to have been decommissioned, but biolabs are never decommissioned. Uh, and even if decommissioned, it's very easy to create a bioweapon.
Hmm.
So most of the countries are not signatories to this convention. Uh, will they deploy? Will they employ this bioweapons? Unlikely. Unlikely. They've been accusing the Russians to have deployed some of these, but not happening. Chemical and bioweapons are kind of NBC, CBR, and all these, whatever you may call it, are something you should stay clear of. And if bioweapons are used, you see what you got to realize is that bioweapons and chemical weapons, whenever deployed, they affect both sides.
It's a two-way street.
It's a two-way street. So unlikely. The labs may
So
be still be functional. They're always functional.
So let's take two compliments that have come to you. Thank you, General Sir, for answering questions with patience. I really appreciate your platform. My apologies, everyone. And your guest, Adi, good evening. Thank you so much from my end. And there's a funky little comment for you, sir, which says, love this dude.
Whosoever you are, I love you too.
Right. And there is, of course, a lot of requests for you to bring you back to talk Pakistan. Let's finish Ukraine, yeah. We'll get her back for Pakistan.
So you want to talk Pakistan? I can do Pakistan too, but then I'll have to get a little. I don't talk when you know too much. You don't talk about something.
If I may, sir has worked in certain sensitive positions, so it's a bit dicey in that aspect of it in terms of national security, and one must respect that. I, for me, it is very simple. If sir wants to, I'm always open. If sir doesn't want to, I respect it.
I mean,
Simple as that.
Pakistan is a state. Pakistan is a state which is interesting to talk to and talk about, and one can within parameters. Yes, one can, not an issue.
So, so we'll plan that out sometime, sir. Till then, sir, thank you so much. This has been a brilliant talk, and a lot of people have said program has been fantastic. A lot of people have said the kind of stuff that we've spoken about here. This has actually been, when you look at it, so we've rounded up a lot of things in this, and we've done well, as a matter of fact, of a proper coverage of the Ukraine war, and I'm very happy by the way the program has gone, and I'm sure a lot of people will also appreciate this. Thank you so much once again, sir. See you next Thursday. Till then, Jai Hind.
Right. Thank you, everybody. It's good to have discussed Ukraine. Let's hope that peace prevails as soon as possible. Thank you.
Absolutely.